Hi, and welcome to Kitchen Conversations. Welcome to my podcast. Today, we're going to combine pickleball and permaculture, how the two intersect, and the amazing story behind that. This is Keith St. Jean, one of the co-owners of the Dink Den, one of Ontario's newest indoor pickleball facilities. And what a facility. We'll talk to Keith about how he got into the game, his interest in becoming a club owner, and we'll do a pretty deep dive on permaculture. Enjoy the episode here on Kitchen Conversations. Well, Keith, good morning and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations. And let me start by saying thanks. Thanks for being here this morning. We've been talking about this for a while, so it's great to see you this morning. I appreciate you taking some time to stop into the studio and have a chat with me about this great game of pickleball.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. Very excited to be here.
Well, you know, it's a special day for the podcast for a couple of reasons. Number one, you and I have known each other for a while. We first met, I think, at a True North Pickleball Team Challenge event here in Kingston at the Kingston Pickleball Club. So we have had a casual friendship through pickleball, which, you know, there's no better place to make friends than pickleball. But so that's exciting. Been excited about having you on the show and talking pickleball with you. But you're also the first nuclear engineer to ever appear on the podcast. So there's a little pressure on me. I feel I should come up with some really difficult question for you to try to solve for us today, but I'm not sure I'm the guy to come up with that because I'm as dumb as a brick. And I don't think people listening to the podcast are looking for answers on modular nuclear energy solutions, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, what a great career. What a story you have, though. You've got that as sort of, I guess, your career background, Keith. And, you know, I wouldn't mind you touching lightly on that work. I know you've been involved with that for quite some time now, but I really also want to start this conversation this morning really all obviously going to get into pickleball and the work that you've done, the facility called Dink Den, and what a great effort that is. And we'll touch on all of that, obviously. But tell me about your life in permaculture and in nuclear engineering, because I think, you know, for those listening, get a sense of who you are beyond the pickleball court. So can I invite you to maybe start with a bit of that?
Sure. Yeah. In high school, you know, we all have that one teacher that kind of has that deep-seated impact on us. For me, it was a teacher named Mr. Rogers. So I don't know if you're playing pickleball out there and watching this, but anyway, Aaron Rogers, if you're out there, huge influence on my life. And I think he was my physics teacher in grade 12. At the time, I had wanted to go into, I don't know. I actually didn't really even know. I just wanted to make a lot of money, you know, like stupid stuff that, you know, a grade 10, grade 12, whatever, is interested in. And he was super into, you know, at the time it was like stuff like acid rain, CFCs, refrigerants, and all the damage we're doing to the ozone layer. And he was really into like activism. And, watching him teach physics and be super passionate about that kind of stuff really kind of, it had a huge impact on me. So I was always pretty good in math. I was always a year ahead in math in school. I think in grade 4, I did grade 4 and grade 5 at the same time because I was in a split class. So my teacher kind of didn't know what to do with me. So when I finished grade 4 math, they put me with I just started taking math with the split H. It was higher than me, and then that kind of messed things up for schooling, for the rest of it. So then in grade 8, when I was supposed to take a high school credit, they didn't want me taking a high school credit, so I did some like computer coding stuff. But I was always kind of good in math. My mom was always pushing me into engineering, and I hated math. So in grade 12, Mr. Rogers was actually really good also about making math kind of fun. So we'd have like these weird questions on exams about, you know, how many snowballs would you have to throw at a train, like traveling right at you to not get hit by the train? And how fast would you have to throw at them? And you'd have to make a bunch of assumptions and all this stuff. But it was really interesting. So, you know, at that point, I was like, okay, I could see me liking physics. So I ended up going into mechanical engineering at Waterloo. And then, you know, one of my first materials labs, we were doing compressive strength, tensile strength, kind of pulling materials apart in a lab, sending doing kinematics on it, projectiles and watching how it deforms and deflects. And I was like, I'm just blowing stuff up in my like mechanical engineering labs. And then I got into the nuclear side of things because I was always interested in, you know, kind of helping support humanity push itself towards a more sustainable way of living on the earth, kind of fueled by my passion that it was kind of fostered from my physics teacher, Mr. Rogers. So that's kind of what landed me in nuclear engineering. Permaculture is kind of the same path. So, I had kids, and first thing you do when you start having kids is, well, what's the healthy stuff to feed them and all this. And then with the lens of making sure humanity is, being sustainable, I also fell in love with this science called permaculture, which was, essentially how do we not just grow healthy food, but also grow healthy food in a way that supports humans being a steward of the earth instead of this parasite that's ravaging and consuming the earth. So I, naturally just fell right down the rabbit hole of that. Started a YouTube channel on it. I think at this
Mm.
point in my life, I've probably read more books on soil science and sustainable agriculture than my mechanical engineering. When I get into something, I get really, really into it. So I'm like, reading textbooks and kind of, the things that they would learn in university, and then just learning it. I really enjoy that side of things. So yeah, that's kind of what got me into permaculture, is just that passion for, how on earth are my kids, like what are my kids' generation going to see in their lifetime? How can we ensure that we can hand off society to the kids in a way that gives them the biggest chance to survive, not just from a money standpoint, but, making sure that the earth is habitable and like thriving, and not just, we're just pillaging it for all its resources.
Yeah. Well, Keith, all that's so interesting. And I think, the point is well taken on the passion side of life. And when you find something that just kind of resonates, kind of rings your bell, if you will. And I think that's, again, we can tie that back into this great game of pickleball. But the passion in your voice today, obviously very clear and very determined. And I think it's great. I think, we always said to our two boys, passion before paycheck, find something in your life. And it seems like you've done that you enjoy both, on the engineering side and obviously in the permaculture. But this whole concept of permaculture, I think many of us and those listening, perhaps Keith, have heard it, but how do you define it for someone that perhaps has never heard of permaculture? Is it basically working with nature instead of against nature? Is that a fair way to kind of describe what it is? But it goes, I think, beyond just growing things. Is it not also sort of, could it be community based? Does permaculture have ties to communities and how we build communities and sustainability of gardens and food? And can you expand just a bit on that to try to give
Yeah.
some definition to the word permaculture? Because certainly, and again, full disclosure, probably hadn't thought much about it until I met you guys in Kingston, and
Right.
then kind of got to know you a little bit. We, obviously through the pickleball, and you start chatting, and we have a mutual friend in Terry Grosjean, and so just kind of looked into your story a bit, landed on your YouTube channel, which I want to make note has almost 85,000 people following it today. Your son's now involved. He's posting some videos and is doing a great job there. So good on you and good on him for continuing to push content out there. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. So that's great. But help those listening maybe better understand the word permaculture, Keith.
Okay. Yeah. And for anyone who is listening and tuning into a pickleball podcast and listening to someone talk about permaculture, like, I just want to thank you because, yeah, I think a lot of people, we kind of go about our day to day lives and everything seems okay. But then generation to generation, we hear stories about, my dad saying he used to drive up to his cottage with his dad and there's bugs all over the windshield, and now there's not. You hear about since 1979, like 80% plus of insects, the actual physical mass of insects on the earth are gone. So there's all these collapses that are happening around. We've heard about climate change and all that sort of stuff. But it's just like these are just one of the symptoms of kind of what's an overarching um, root cause problem, which is essentially called overshoot. Humanity's overshoot. We're just consuming roughly 2 to 2.5 Earths worth of what the Earth can replenish in a year. We're consuming twice that. So anytime you have anything over one, you're essentially just drawing down the carrying capacity of what the Earth could support. So permaculture was a multidisciplinary science developed in like 1980s. It's had its roots back to like Mesopotamia. This isn't a new thing. People have been aware of not drying out and desertification of their areas since Egypt collapsed through essentially the same thing. They turned the fertile Nile region into a desert. So history is littered with civilizations that don't pay attention to sustainability, and they essentially desertify their area and turn a fertile, food basket into a desert. So as in the 1980s, some scientists kind of got together from many fields, physics, biology, all these different interdisciplinary fields, and decided to say, okay, what would society have to be designed like in order for us to not go down that path? Because now that we're global, desertifying the Nile doesn't happen. We literally desertify the entire planet. So, all the things that you see in Interstellar, it's all the movie Interstellar. It's kind of all bred out of this general consciousness that's growing, where we're starting to see what we're doing to the planet. And a lot of these things, once they happen, they create, runaway effects that become irreversible. You can't reverse extinctions. So when you hear things like, we've lost 80% of the mass of insects on the planet, some people are like, good, I don't like insects. And then other people are like, well, what eats those insects? Birds. So there was a book called, Silent Spring, that was written in the 1960s about what does a world look like when there's no birds, because there's no food for the birds. And so it's that kind of spiral, save the bees because they help pollinate the food that we eat. So saving the bees helps save us. So yeah, a lot of the permaculture stuff, it's essentially permanent human culture, so permanent human civilization. It started out as permanent agriculture, a way to grow food. Like you said, it was food centric. But over the years, as we've seen, insect collapse, loss of topsoils, erosion of fertile lands, building cities on the fertile areas of the earth, because that's what humanity does. We build cities where it's easy to grow food, but then we pave over those areas. So a lot of the most fertile lands on the planet Earth have concrete on top of them and skyscrapers. So it's how do we navigate the next 50 years so that we have 5,000 years? People are always talking about what is the next, climate change. We got to keep climate change to, like, 1 to 2 degrees rise by 2050. Well, 2050 is good. We should care about 2050, but like I care about 2,500. Like we've kind of lost that 7 generational looking forward on. We should care about a lot further than 2050.
Absolutely fascinating. It just seems to me, Keith, I'm 59, born in 67, so I'm a 60s child. And it just seems we've gotten so short sighted on just about everything. And I just kind of want to end on that. It just something for those listening to reflect on. And listen, I carry this right onto the pickleball court. I've got absolutely no strategy out there. I mean, I everything for me in my pickleball game is short sighted, but I can get away with it because it's a silly game of pickleball. But when we're talking about the betterment of the globe and the planet and the future of our children, grandchildren, and beyond, we do need to take that a little more seriously. If I want to go out there and whack a wiffle ball around for 15 minutes with no idea what I'm trying to do or accomplish, that's one thing. But if we're not thinking about sustainability for the planet, the food structure, the culture, communities, people, environments, we got a real problem on our hands. We
Yeah.
really do. And it just, you look at Wall Street, you look at, financial planning, and businesses used to plan for years ahead, make decisions today for years from now. They just care about the next 30-day window. We're just trying to satisfy the wrong audience, it seems. And so, listen, it's a great conversation. You're the right guy to have it. And I appreciate you taking some time to share your thoughts and feelings on it. So thank you for all of that. I appreciate it. I love it. Well, Keith, let's get into this crazy thing, this crazy game called pickleball. We met in Kingston, mentioned that earlier, the Kingston Pickleball Club. Ryan Haynes runs a tournament called True North Pickleball. And I think we'd met at a team event, which is one of the best events I've ever played in. A lot of fun. Love the format. I met you and Trish that day. Terry Grosjean was in town. We kind of connected. And I liked both of you right out of the gate. I just want a full disclosure. I thought you guys were just great people, and loved getting to know you then. Haven't seen much of you since, but excited about what you've done since we did first connect. And I'd love to know a bit more about your pickleball story. Do you remember the first time you played? Who kind of maybe Keith introduced you guys to the game? And subsequently, we'll segue into how that has now turned you into a best-in-class facility owner. You guys have done something with Dink Den that's just beyond recognition. It's just so well done, and we'll get into all that in a minute. But how'd you get into the game? Who brought you into this crazy game of pickleball?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks. It wasn't me. It was my wife. So my wife Trish. Uh, so I'm very, from the permaculture standpoint, I'm very anti-consumerism. So I don't like getting birthday presents. I don't like getting Christmas presents. I don't need more stuff. I'm trying to actively get rid of the stuff I have. So one year for Christmas, she bought me pickleball paddles. At the same time, I was coaching my kids hockey, and we do these dry land things where we do, shuttle runs and physical conditioning in the gyms at the community center that we play at. Well, at the same time as that, there was always pickleball going on in the other side of the gym. So anytime I'd walk by, I'd see pickleball. And to me, when you don't know pickleball and you see it, especially in that context of older people playing it in a gym with a wiffle ball, you see it as this like elderly sport, and that's how I had it in my head. That's the first exposure I had to pickleball was just walking by doing the kids hockey dryland. Now, at the same time, I was a competitive baseball player. I played varsity baseball in high school. I played hockey, squash, tennis. So, like, I played a lot of sports. I've always been an athlete as well. So, when my wife bought us pickleball rackets for Christmas, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was her basically, because we always joke. We have a very good sense of humor. We always are kind of messing with each other. And I thought she was basically saying that we were getting older and we have to do pickleball, because in my mind pickleball was lawn bowling. So if your wife gets you a lawn bowling membership, you know you think, oh, that's funny, you're really funny, and then she says, no, we're going to learn to play like on Christmas
Wow.
holiday. So I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go play pickleball. Come on. So I actually didn't go, and that is very uncommon for me to like not go compromise for something that she obviously wanted me to do. I still kind of thought it was a joke. So she came back from that learn to play and she was really mad at me. And we don't really fight that much. So it was actually a pretty big deal. The next week, the next weekend she comes back and she says, I've signed you up for another learn to play. So if anyone doesn't know Trish, who's watching this podcast, she is just like, she gets her way. She's feisty. She'll dig her like heels in. So I realize I'm either going to have this argument every single weekend for the rest of my life, or I'm just going to go. So I went, and I went with my youngest son, my father-in-law, and the four of us were on a court. And I was thinking, like, at one point it hit me. I've got, at the time, I think a 10-year-old, probably. Yeah, I think Jackson would have been about 9 or 10. I've got a 70-year-old and then two 40-year-olds playing a sport, trying our best because everyone in this family is like mega competitive. So trying our best to win. And like I was trying my hardest to beat my son, to beat my father-in-law, and he'd already been to the previous learning place. He was a little better than me. And then I thought, okay, this can't happen again. So we go to the next week, and we're slowly getting better, get into some games with some other younger like athletic people. And I thought, okay, I kind of get it now, because if I went to play basketball at a gym and I'm playing with a 90-year-old, or I'm playing against LeBron James, it's two very different sports. So I thought, okay, yeah, there's room in pickleball for everybody. Yeah, it's a fantastic sport. For the barrier of entry is super low. So you can, not just financially, but like physically. So the court's small, especially in doubles. You can kind of get on there. You don't have to necessarily be this super athlete moving all over the place. You can compete while not being able to move that much. And you can actually, which is, I'm sure, super fun for the older people. And we see it a lot at the Dink Den now that a lot of new people are coming in. You get these older people, like these older folks who are they played for a year or so, just absolutely throwing these kids in the dumpster and rolling them in games. And then you see these young kids getting frustrated that they're getting beaten by someone who's maybe 40 or 50 years older than them. And just you get that rivalry between people who are two generations apart, and the competition flares up, and then, like, in a healthy way, and you just think, oh, this is such a cool sport, that you can compete in such a wide demographic range. So and Trish loves that, she's a woman and she can get out there and just absolutely destroy some men. She loves playing ladders against men. She loves that she's like one of the only women up in the top courts of the ladders at the Dink Den as well. So, like, it's such a good sport for that. The barrier of entry is super low. you actually get really good really quick, especially if you have a couple lessons and the coach can get you past some of the common mistakes that beginners do, get you some strategy stuff that you can like fix overnight. You can be very competitive within a week or 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden you're in there at open plays and you're crushing open plays. You're looking to move up into it, like intermediates, advanced sessions. You're competing and you feel like you're holding your own in those. So that dopamine hit that you're getting, that like, I feel like I'm getting better. My peers are watching me. And then you throw the social aspect in where, 3 years later, I feel like I know my whole town. 3 years later, I probably have 400 or 500 people in my phone in my contact list with the last name Pickleball. So like, you meet so many people, and the fact that we're talking, you're in Kingston and I'm in Cobourg, and we met at a tournament, team challenge. I know people from, in London that I played with at Smash in London. I know people up in Ottawa, Quebec, even. So, and then even in the States, I guess one little segue from there is we've gotten so into pickleball that we use our vacations now to follow the pros around and watch the pro events, go to MLPs, and a lot of the stuff that we actually brought into the Dink Den were from going to those pro events, watching the pros in the day, and then going to the facilities in those areas, writing down all the things we liked about those facilities, and then using those in the design of the Dink Den. So a lot of people say the Dink Den's kind of world class. It's a wonderfully designed facility. It's not, it was us just going out and looking at what are the best things that pickleball clubs in the world do, what are their design features, what makes it easy to see the ball, what makes it easy to hear, what keeps noise down, what keeps vision lines constrained, what gives you good contrast, and what's an environment that feels good to be in. Too many pickleball facilities are just a big empty box
Mm,
with courts on them. And some of the best facilities that we saw out there
yeah.
were they designed their facilities to be a social space, and that's really what we've wanted to bring at the Dink Den.
Well, I love that. I love the backstory on how you got into the game. The multi-generational aspect of that, Keith, I think is just really part of what rings everyone's bell when they first step on that court. And I think, you've touched on absolutely everything that I was hoping you would. So thank you. Great job on reflecting on kind of your entry into the game and how you got addicted so quickly, reluctantly, but quickly. I mean, it was still a quick process, even though even though you decided to fight a battle that you knew day one you were going to lose ultimately. And she is fierce, by the way. And she being Trish, I've seen her a couple of times playing, and she is a fierce pickleball player and just a terrific person out there in the court to play with and partner with. And so, yeah, I can see how you wouldn't argue that and win that very often, if ever. So good on you for recognizing your role in all of that and getting yourself in line quicker than later. So, yeah, it's something else. And that was going to be one of the questions as we segue into the Dink Den. I do want to spend lots of time talking about that facility, Keith, and the programming and the work that you're doing and the goals and objectives of everything that you and the ownership group there have got on the radar. But going around and seeing what's out there now, I think if we go back, and I look at Kingston Pickleball Club as an example, I mean, there's a building that's been in existence now for, I guess, closing in on 5 years. And, when they first opened in Kingston, there was just nothing like it. I mean, there just wasn't. And I remember people coming in from areas like Cobourg and Ottawa and walking through that blue door for the first time. And for many of those players, Keith, they had never seen a dedicated pickleball court. They had come from YMC gyms, hockey rinks. They'd come from outdoor courts where, we're using painter's tape to set up the courts. And so the first time you walked into Kingston Pickleball Club and saw a dedicated pickleball court, well, in fact, 7 dedicated colors, permanent nets, dark blue walls. I mean, it was really something. And again, I say this at a great respect for the club and the work that they've done, to look at what's being built now and to see the social side of that being recognized as a critically important part of the culture of that club is really something. The game is evolving at such a speed. And so, yeah, I was going to ask about you and what the other owners have done to kind of, put together the pieces of the puzzle that are the Dink Den today. And I'm glad to hear that that's what you did, that you did go out and tour a number of different facilities. And because when you look at what you've done there, and when I was in just prior to opening and had a bit of a tour and then got back in once you had kind of opened the doors, and just the workout area alone, Keith, and the warm-up court and the foosball table and the ping pong table. And, you've got areas to sit and congregate and talk, because I don't know if percentage wise, how much emphasis I would put on the importance of this game to me whether it be the game or the social side. Is it a 50-50 split? Is it a 60-40, 70-30? I'm probably going to tell you that 70% of what I love about the game is the social side. So to see something like what you've built with the areas in which we can congregate as players in between rallies, matches, even just to drop in and watch our buddies play, I just want to congratulate you on that. It is breathtaking. We're going to put a lot of graphics up, a lot of images. We're going to try to get that drone video inserted into our conversation here this morning, because to be able to see it is something else. And so congratulations on just all of that. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, thank you. A huge part of our journey, like that, just to go back to what you're saying about Kingston, we our first tournament we ever played at Kingston. At that time, I had in my phone on every single day all the local community centers and what time their pickleball was at, and we'd hit each one. So we would go from Newcastle to Whitby to Oshawa, all the way up to Trenton, the Air Force Base in Trenton. So that was our drive distance. If it was about 45 minutes away, we would hit those. So at that time, we were playing a ton every single day. We had our first tournament in Kingston, and we had a serious conversation on the way home about is like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes too far for us to drive for pickleball, because that's how next level Kingston felt. And we left that facility going, I played the best pickleball I've ever played today. And we were trying to figure out why. And it's because the dark blue walls, because the dedicated pickleball courts, you could see the ball clear. And because you could see the ball clear and everyone could, everyone's game was just controlled. And because everyone's game was controlled, there weren't that many high balls. And because there weren't that many high balls, there wasn't this slappy, messy pickleball game. So everything was just very controlled. The rallies were longer, and the play looked better. You felt better on the court, and then you had all these moments where you have this 15-shot rally that goes and cycles between offense and defense, and a hand speed up and a reset, and then back to dinking, and then someone leaves the ball high, you flick, you block, and you get the overhead put away, and everyone on the court goes like, "Ah, whoa, what a rally!" And like you have so many more of those moments when like the design of the facility is proper, and a lot of people don't understand how impactful and how much joy that can bring. And like you said, I am myself definitely, if you're to stick me in a box, it would be hyper competitive, wants to push into 5-0, wants to win golds, tournament, number one ladder player. Like those are my goals. But I would also say it's at least 70% of the reason I play is the social side of things. And as a club owner too, now that we've built kind of our dream pickleball facility, because that's really what the Dink Den is our town wasn't doing anything about a pickleball facility. We just said if we're going to do something, we got to do it ourselves. And we designed our dream club by taking the best parts of other clubs. It's just that we let other people play there also. But like that's the goal is I want the best club to play in. Um, and because of that, as an owner, when I'm watching people play and I'm not even playing in the events and the place is packed and I'm seeing that social side of things really amp up because of all the bar seating and all that sort of stuff we have focused on at the club, um, I like easily that's when I'm at my peace. That's when I'm happiest is just seeing other people enjoy the club in the way that we had envisioned and had dreamed about for so long. Yeah. So going to what you were saying on things that we've designed in the club, we would travel to different facilities in the States. And, some of them, we went to Florida once on a cruise and we thought, well, we're going to go early because we're not going to go to Florida and not play pickleball. So we went down there a week early, and it snowed actually in Florida and it rained like it was fluttering between freezing and not at the time, which was like unseasonably terrible weather in Florida. So we went to this place called the Dink House, and in the Dink House it was a fairly small club, 4 courts with a little central lounge area and this little bar style seating. And we played for our hour and a half there, and then we just sat at the bars. We watched other people play, talked about our trip, and the next thing you know, it's like 8 o'clock at night. We've been there for like 4 hours. We're asking the person, "Oh, like, do you need us to leave?" Because like it's just such a cool spot to hang out in. they actually had some PPA pros that were there at the time. So we were definitely trying to like get less like tips from them, like watching them play. So Case and Campbell, Kalen Campbell were there. You can probably look them up on the tour. Kaysen, I think, is like the ranked 16th or so men's player in the world. Kalen Campbell is a huge part of MLP team. She's made it into top eights in PPA draws. She's started to really come in together into the sport. And I think she's 15. She might be 16 now. And Kaysen's like 18. So we're watching these people and we're just like, this is just so cool that we get to sit here and watch these people. And the next thing you know, it's 8 o'clock. You know, when we came, it was definitely an older crowd. 8 o'clock rolls around and everyone in the club, we're looking around. Everyone's like 22 to 26 years old. They're all flirting. And we're looking around going, this is where people come to meet partners. And it's because it's the you build it, they will come type thing. They build a social space that pre-selects away from maybe alcoholics at a bar towards, athletic people, people who are seeking something social. So you meet someone playing pickleball, and I'm sure in Kingston, and all over the world, there's a lot of relationships that start out in pickleball because I mean, what better can you ask for? You have a sport that you can do together, you can compete together, you can drill and get better together. You talk about it afterwards. Trish and I get home from working at the club and playing all day, and we fall asleep sometimes watching pickleball like in bed when we're too tired. Like we're just okay, throw pickleball on and we'll watch. So it's really in a weird way, it's really become central to our life where it's created so much bonding, so much time. I'm spending so much time with my kids, playing pickleball with them. We always spent time together, but like it was like watching their hockey, taking them around to do stuff, teaching them to ride a bike, going on walks together. But like now we're, drilling and competing and playing a sport together. And like they got to really try hard to beat their old man, thankfully, still. That's probably changing pretty quick with Jackson. He's probably one of the best players in Cobourg right now, but so I'm losing that battle quickly literally on a week to weekly basis. But like, what a good sport! Like, how can you beat that? And yeah, so
No, I was going to say all that in a bag of chips. And I mean, I think, there's the point that I think this game needs to, if we can punch home one point today with those listening that maybe haven't tried the game, it's that it's everything you've just said. It just takes, I don't want to say it takes over your life because that puts a negative spin. You just embrace it in a way, Keith, that you just can't imagine life without it. Like, if you think back to prior to pickleball, I often say, what did I do? And, I think of our
yeah.
social circles and the friends that we've made and the acquaintances that I have, to your point, across the province and beyond. And without this game, I'm just not sure how any of that happens. But yeah, it's interesting. You made a point about relationships beginning on the pickleball court. I'm going to try to find a divorce lawyer at some point, and I'd like to talk about whether they've seen a spike in marriages ending when one or the other person did not want to play pickleball. I think there's probably been a spike in that in the last 5 years because I think people take this so seriously that they'll say to their significant other, if you're not going to get on board with this, I don't want to be with you anymore. And I think that could be a very interesting podcast. So I'll do some work on that. So be forewarned, if you begin this game, you will become addicted and it will in some ways consume you. So that's all great. So tell me a bit more about the Dink Den. Tell me what you're most proud of. You've gone around, you've looked at the best of the best, you've taken pieces from here, there, and everywhere, and you've built this great facility. What are you and the ownership group most proud of today of what you've done with the Dink Den in Cobourg?
Yeah, if I could condense it into one moment, we had a social learn to play session going on. Basically, what we do is we do our learn to play clinics, and then right after that, we have a social drop-in session so that people are coming out and we say, hey, you guys actually know the rules better than a lot of people that are in the social settings. You probably can compete in there, so just jump right in. So this happened, and almost our entire learn to play session jumped into the social intermediate drop in right afterwards, which meant we had close to 120 people in the club, all playing on 8 courts, and the place was packed. And we had a lot of exchange of information going on. So you could see after every single game, people were like, "Oh, what's your name? Did you just start? Oh, I just started to learn to play last week. Oh, me too. Hey, do you want to like get together and play?" And I saw these people making all these social groups, exchanging information of WhatsApp, the telephone numbers, Facebook profiles, messaging each other, and it was all happening at the tables in the central lounge area that borders kind of our whole entire facility. So, seeing that happening was kind of that if you build it, they'll come type moment where it's like, okay, we built a really, really nice central area lounge hangout area inspired by the Dink House in Florida. And people were using it for the intended purpose that we wanted. And then at the same time, in that same drop in, I had an older lady come to me and say, I run a yoga group with one set of my friends. She said, I run pickleball with another set of my friends, and I do a book club with another set of my friends. And she said, I just got a really good idea, and I don't know if you're open to it, but she said, I would love if we could run our yoga session in your gym, we could play pickleball afterwards, and then we could sit in your lounge area. And would you allow us to just hang out there and discuss, our next book? And she saw this moment where like the facility that we built allowed her to potentially join her three different social circles of friends. And I just thought of like the snowball effect of what that does, and in a permaculture lens as well. So you've got these three different groups of people who maybe don't know each other. Some of them might know each other. The book club people are now doing yoga and pickleball and getting more fit. The pickleball people are maybe reading books and getting that social connectivity going on, and all of these people are meshing and coming together in such a tight knit way. And then when people see this happening, hopefully we can get it going. Because I said, yes, like that is what we're going for. We want more of this, as much of this as we can get. Watch parties, bingo parties, whatever it is, like use our club, come and do your work, like come and sit in our lounge, do your work, play pickleball, do whatever you want to do, kids doing their homework, like whatever. This is what we're trying to design. And from a permaculture lens, and especially like a sustainability thing, post collapse, because I'm very kind of collapse aware of the fact that we're moving away from oil and we're depleting our soils and we're having all these issues with, food and we're prone to all of these potentially systemic collapses. And in countries where they've had collapses, typically we see it in like a post um, natural disaster thing, like in Haiti and all this, that kind of thing. Louisiana during floods, Texas during floods. You see, how quickly stores run out of food during COVID, right? Stores run out of food and all this sort of stuff. And the areas in the world that do the best for that kind of thing are areas that have very, very strong social connectivity. And this is, I think, what I see as the intersection between permaculture, gardening, sustainability, and like how pickleball fits into that. Because pickleball is like a tool that I've never seen have so much power on building community strength and social relationships. Like a strong community watches for each other, takes care of each other, and they do so outside of you're just my neighbor or you look like me and that's why I'm going to take care of you, but like I'm going to take care of you. So and they do it more out of, I'm just going to take care of you because I care about you, and I care about you because I've been you on a pickleball court, and I like you, and we talk, and we're social together all the time. So yeah, I love that. I love that aspect, and that's one of the things that we've kind of really worked on at the Dink Den, and one of the moments where I saw a glimpse of like the power that we actually have as a facility owner to drive positive change in our community.
Yeah, so Keith, really, it's not just a pickleball club. It's a community hub. It's a place for people to come, gather, talk, connect, share stories, solve loneliness too. And I think that's a point maybe neither of us have made yet this morning, and maybe a good point to kind of close on here as far as pickleball and what the work that you're doing at the Dink Den and the importance of that. I think we underestimate those of us that are lucky enough not to be lonely. And I count myself as one of those, married, loved the girl of my dreams, 2 kids. I mean, my life is good. I've got 0 complaints and I've got 0 regret. And I think if I can sit here today and look you in the eye and tell you at 59, that's the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, it's a pretty bold statement. I'm really lucky. And I realize that not everyone is. And I think pickleball in so many ways, Keith, brings that, at least that missing element to somebody. And I know a number of people that play locally, Keith, that without the game of pickleball, I'm not sure what their purpose for putting their feet on the floor today would be, because they're heading into that social game this morning at 8:30, and they're going tomorrow at 8:30, and the day after at 8:30, and then they're coming off the court. Maybe they're going out for a coffee or grabbing lunch with a buddy, or maybe that game leads to somebody saying, hey, I hear you like to bike. Do you want to ride the KMP trail at some point with me? And so, the game just serves as sort of an entry point into solving a lot of problems. And we haven't even really touched on the physical side. I mean, I played, again, because I'm an idiot, I played 6 hours one day, and I shouldn't do that. But that's a 20,000 step day, 493 zone minutes. And I don't know how many calories Fitbit thinks I burned, but it was a ton. I woke up 2.5 pounds lighter the next morning. That's what I can tell you. That's, statistically speaking, that's what happened. But, you look at the physical benefit of the game, the steps, the cardio, but then maybe most importantly is for those that are facing loneliness, and it's a long day, without something like pickleball. So, to see what you've done there, and to not only see what you've done, but to hear the passion. And I guess, it's fair to say that's the culture of the club, is to be a community hub. And I think that, I applaud that. I think that's just terrific. So well done on that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going for.
Yeah, it's terrific, Keith. Well, listen, I'm watching the clock. You've got a day to get on with because you just have so much happening in your life. Was there anything we didn't touch on here today that you think we should have? There's just such a story here, and I think this could be a 4-hour podcast. I will do my part to make sure we put up lots of graphics, lots of images, lots of videos, and of course, all sorts of connecting points with your approval in the show notes of how to get hold of you and the Dink Den, and how to learn more about the work that you're doing there, and in the world of permaculture too. We'll make sure we tie back to the YouTube channel there as well. But was there something else that maybe you and I should have chatted about that we didn't get to today?
I mean, I think, like you said, I'm pretty sure you and I could talk for 20 hours straight about pickleball. So, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty to talk about. Maybe at a future podcast. I'm always open to coming back, bringing some of my teammates back.
Well, this has been enlightening. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. I want to thank you for putting some time aside this morning and being part of the podcast. I really appreciate your time this morning. So thank you.
You too, Mike.